Good evening. Welcome to another exciting episode of Agent Paranormal. I'm your host, Rich. In the studio with me today, co-hosting, is Pete. There he is.
Hello.
Peter, how are you, man?
Wonderful.
Thank
I'm
you.
monitoring the chat, so if people would like to chat.
Fantastic. Behind the console, the man who is engineering this is Todd.
I'm here.
Welcome, Todd.
What's happening?
Not too much. Y'all missed it. If you joined us about 15 minutes earlier, Todd was screaming and swearing at the consoles
I usually do.
because they weren't cooperating with him. But
I usually do.
as usual, he figures it out within split seconds before the airing of the show. That's a great tech guy. That is a sign of an awesome tech guy. Mother, son of... 3 seconds, Todd. Oh, boom, got it.
I would just start hitting things.
Yeah. He was punching the walls, kicking things, and colorful language. I mean, I witnessed the whole thing. It was kind of before you came in. So today is March 6th, and it's beautiful. 70 degrees out.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, man. This is March. We're supposed to be at what, like 20, 22 degrees maybe, somewhere around there, and we're getting awesome spring. And we sat here in the studio a couple minutes ago and listened to motorcycles go up and down the road, which is pretty cool.
Is that what that was?
Yeah, I'm getting ready. I'm getting the itch to get the Harley out, but we'll wait a little bit. So
Is there any way they can zoom into my nostril hair so my big belly of fat's not right in everyone's face? Like I look like Peter Griffin in that.
Meg,
Man boobies and just a stomach of.
there you go. Yeah, do the same to me too, dude. I mean, come on. Don't give him preferred treatment. So being serious now.
Professional.
Being completely professional now. So we've had a kind of a cornucopia of different subjects that we've talked about here in the paranormal. Everything from evidence to the demonic to workshops about how to build portals. We've had many paranormal celebs in here. Every once in a while, we like to go into the metaphysical end of things and go deep into the paranormal. Now, this is what I mean by going deep. We're going into all kinds of theories and different approaches to the paranormal and in consciousness, in life in general. And tonight we're going to do that. So we have a very special guest with us, a gentleman we met from Rome. We actually had him on our show a while back.
Yes.
We used to be with a different network, and we had this gentleman on here. And it was kind of funny. I didn't know he was that knowledgeable in the subject of the spirituality, metaphysical, and all that kind of stuff. It was kind of impressed sitting next to him, and he's going into some really deep stuff.
Well, he's going to blow some minds tonight, I'm pretty sure.
I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to it. So let's, if we can, bring on our guest. His name is Anthony Desito. Anthony!
Hello.
There he is.
I think I have a little bit of the delay on my end.
Yeah.
So hopefully you guys can hear me okay.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yes.
Awesome. So Anthony's got a book coming out called The Dawn of the Rising. So, dude, I was just telling Pete, back when we had another show, we were in a different studio. You came in one day and sat down with us, and the amount of detail you went into talking about the spirituality and metaphysics and all that kind of stuff, I was like, where did this guy come from? I mean, it was like a walking encyclopedia of knowledge.
My parents ask that all the time.
And from Rome, New York on top of it.
Yeah, from Rome, New York. There you go. So, I mean, when we saw that you had a book coming out, and it was like, Pete's like, oh, we got to get Anthony on this. We got to get him on the show and talk to him once again.
I'm just checking the live chat.
happy to hear you guys. Yeah.
What's that, Pete?
I was just checking the chat. I'm sorry.
So Pete's
I
checking
wasn't.
checking the chat. So
Don't be afraid to hit in with the full throttle, high octane truth hammer of metaphysics. Let's bring it to people. Give it to them.
Whatever you guys
Just
do.
swing it right in.
Tell us about the book. How long has it taken you? When did you start doing that type of stuff? The book. When did you start it?
So the book is actually, I don't know if a lot of people actually realize what it's about. It's actually poetry. So I was writing for a really, really long time, like from when I was a young kid. The thing is, I never shared it with anybody. Nobody actually realized that I was doing this stuff. And that was partially on my end because, like I said, I didn't really share it with too many people. I didn't feel comfortable doing that. And the idea of when I was writing, it wasn't actually that I was really writing poetry. I thought I was writing song lyrics because I wanted to be in a band from when I was a really young kid. A friend of mine actually pointed out to me one time. He said, you know, he's like, you're writing all these things and you're referring to them as songs. But in actuality, he's like, what you're doing is you're writing poetry because there's no guitar parts behind it because I didn't play any instruments. And I couldn't get on board with the idea of saying, oh, I'm a poet. You know, it didn't seem like me. And then he said, well, think of it like this. He's like, who are some of your biggest idols? You love Jim Morrison. You love Bob Dylan. You love Axl Rose, who's very poetic with his lyrics. So he's like, just run with it from that perspective. And, you know, so I did that. And then I kind of started embracing it a little bit more. Well, when COVID happened, I was in my apartment so much by myself with just nothing to do because everything was closed. And I just started writing like crazy. I probably wrote maybe like 100, 150 things during that time period. And my stepbrother, who's always been on me about, oh, you know, you're such a good writer and stuff, you should try to write a book. But I didn't have like a book that I wanted to write. I didn't have any, you know, maybe something about the metaphysical I could have, but it really just wasn't something I was considering. So he got on me about it. And he said, well, why don't you take all those things that you've written, put them together and release like a book of your own poetry. He's like, this way, at least if they never get made into songs, you never have anybody who's, you know, writing music for it. At least there's some sort of a written record that you kind of have so that people can actually see the stuff that you've written. So I just ran with that idea and I kind of, you know, got more and more comfortable with it as time went on. I started sharing my stuff with more people. And that was pretty much what happened with it. So there's probably about maybe 5 years worth of stuff in there. The earliest stuff that's in there, the oldest stuff that's in there, I probably wrote like 5 years ago. And I revisited it and I edited it and stuff to, you know, kind of reflect where I was at this point. And then the newest stuff, I mean, I'm writing stuff almost every day. I drive my publisher nuts because I'll have to revise it. You know, I'll send in a copy and then they'll do a few things with it. I'll be like, wait, can I squeeze one more in? You know, and but now we're all good. We've got the final copy in there. You know, it's in the publishing process, and we're gonna have it printed and shipped probably early April.
Very cool.
Very good. I will definitely get a copy.
Absolutely.
Let us know how to get them. I will absolutely support you.
Going to be in all the normal locations, I would imagine, Amazon and all that stuff.
We're gonna have an ebook which is gonna be available. I'm gonna have in the first run. I'm gonna have limited hardcover, but there's also gonna be paperback. I'll have quite a few paperbacks available. The hardcover, I'm kind of like telling people in advance, if you guys want one, let me know so I know to order enough. Because those cost a little bit more to print, obviously. And you know, then whoever does the ebook thing, I really can't do it because I can't sit there in front of a Kindle. It bores me. I need the physical copy, but those will be available as well. Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
Exactly.
So how'd you come up with the title of the book? I mean,
well, a lot of the material that I write about, there's all sorts of material. I mean, there's stuff that's more personal, like you're talking about relationships and things like that. But a big thing that I hit on through pretty much all of my writing is stuff that is very metaphysical and very much of an arcane nature. And as I was thinking about what I wanted to do for a title, I'm big on the whole idea that right now is essentially throughout society, it's almost like a resurrection, or like a rapture, whatever you want to call it, as far as people's consciousness going. Because you see it everywhere. You know, if you follow the media and stuff, you really wouldn't notice it because everything is such doom and gloom, and everything is just so convoluted and obfuscated as far as how they give stuff to you. But if you actually pay attention to people around you, whether it's on Facebook and various groups, and you know, you kind of start talking to people. There's people who I've talked to who have a pretty good understanding of all this stuff that I never would have expected. And so I see it as there's a lot of people who are really waking up to this stuff. And that waking up, in my opinion, is like a rising or like a resurrection type deal. And the dawn is just like, well, this is just the beginning, because obviously as we move farther into the future, more people are going to have that experience. So eventually, and I see it as where we're at in terms of society with everything that goes on, you know, whether it's COVID, whether it's now we have a war going on, you just have so much craziness. you pretty much have two options. Either, the humanity's got to kind of wake up to these things. It has to evolve, or they're basically going to suffer their own destruction. Because if we keep going the way that we're going right now, that's pretty much what's going to happen. So, fortunately, I do see that a lot of people are kind of waking up to it, and that's pretty much where the name of it came from, Dawn of the Rising.
So just to touch into what he said, and I've seen some of the stuff you post, so I want to delve a little deeper into this. A lot of the metaphysicians right now are calling this the Great Awakening, that we choose to be here. We were here to be a part of this. So whatever's happening is on a larger level. What I think people need to understand, if you're going to get into metaphysics, and correct me if I'm wrong, the fundamental bedrock principle is the truth. The truth is the truth is the truth. That's what they taught us. It always was, is, and will be. It's unchangeable, unbreakable. It's the truth. The problem with society right now is that people mistake beliefs for truth. You're entitled to your own opinion, and you're entitled to your own belief, but you're not entitled to your own truth. The psychological or psychiatric term for that is called cognitive dissonance. And this is where people are stuck right now. No amount of truth is going to change people's belief systems. And that's why we're in a lot of trouble right now, because people refuse to awake to the truth. And as you alluded to, the sources of that information are very thin, and they're not where they need to be. So I don't know if that's anything you want to expand on. I mean,
that makes 100%. Yeah. The most frightening and vulnerable I think that a person can feel is when they've spent their life believing something, whether it's traditional religions or traditional mainstream media, and as far as the interpretation that they get of what's going on in the world. You spend your entire life believing something and subscribing to it and defending it, and it turns out that it's complete BS, that you've basically been lied to most of your life. You've pretty much been brainwashed. So number one, there's an anger that comes from that because you feel like you've been lied to, but you also feel like a fool because you've believed this stuff and you've defended this stuff. So some people don't really have the ability to look at it and say, okay, well, let me acknowledge that I was wrong. Let me say, okay, I was wrong, and it wasn't really my fault. It was just what I was told, but I didn't have the critical thinking ability at the time to really examine it, and then try to make good going forward. Try to make the adaptions as far as what you believe. There's a lot of people who don't have that ability. That's what cognitive dissonance is. They get very angry when you confront them with the possibility that everything that they think is wrong, and they'll double down on things. And just a good example is I was talking to somebody about masks the other day. This was on Twitter of all things, but I posted a whole bunch of stuff as far as like from the CDC and Dr. Peter McCullough and all this other stuff, and I pretty much told him, I said, masks aren't effective at defending you against COVID. Well, this person said, I was wrong. Okay, I'm wrong. Show me some evidence that I'm wrong. Where are you getting it from that I'm wrong? I don't have to. You're just wrong. Okay, well, give me something to work with here. Like, show me how it is that I'm wrong. I don't have to. You're just wrong. They won't provide you with any facts to back up their arguments, to validate it in any way. That's just their go-to. They just get defensive and they say you're wrong. Maybe they call you an idiot or they call you something worse. But that's textbook cognitive dissonance.
I think that's a Rome problem too, isn't it? I mean,
oh God, it's a Rome problem. Like, I've lived here most of my life, man. It's just
the sky is blue. No, it's not. It's pink. It's blue.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
2 + 2 equals 5. No, it doesn't. It does not equal 5. Yes, it does. They'll figure out some sort of way of telling you that it does.
It's like
it's frustrating, but I'll tell you what, it's very frustrating. But the older I get, the more amusing it's kind of getting.
Yeah,
because I don't really care as much as I used to.
I mean, what's the sense of even watching comedy TV shows anymore when you can turn and watch the news, which is a comedy show within itself? The last couple presidential terms, I mean, it's become the entertainment factor. But the thing is like the media. I mean, if you watch the media, and I refuse to watch the news on TV. I refuse to watch it because I know exactly what they're going to do. They're going to focus on everything that's negative, steer away from anything that's influential and positive, and just focus on the things that they think is going to make them money. So all I do now is I go on my computer, I type in like Fox News or CNN or whatever, and just get a snapshot of all the bad things, and then I go read on something that's a little bit more uplifting, a little bit more better, because I know basically with all the negativity and threats of war and all this, the COVID stuff going on, there's still a positive thing. There's an awakening. There's things going on that people just don't want to acknowledge, and if they would, it would lift their spirits. Because so many people, I mean, I know, like my own wife is scared of war. We're going to have nuclear war. So she'll go on and just worry about that all the time. And I'm like, that's no way to...
Don't worry about it. It's not going to happen.
I know. I don't think it's going to happen.
They're leading you there. Like television shows, guided reality. Always remember that.
Yeah.
They're guiding you where they want you.
I like that term.
Well, one of the things that cracks me up the most about the nuclear war, because I know a lot of are the possibility that we're going to have a war with Russia. If you have a nuclear war, these leaders understand that there's going to be nothing left after that. They're going to destroy everything. Now, these people are such elitists. They've never had to really work a lot in their life. If you kill off the majority of the population, you kill off all the resources, you're screwing yourself just as much as you're screwing the rest of us. Possibly more, because you're going to be left behind by hiding out in that bunker. Your life is really going to suck after that. And these people are so selfish and self-consumed and just worried about their own problems. Maybe they don't care if all those people die, but they do care about the fact that who's going to do all the menial work, who's going to do all the things that they don't want to do. It's all about control, and it's all about wealth. Well, if there's nobody around for you to control, you really don't have any control. And they're smart enough to realize that, but they're also smart enough to realize that if they terrify everybody at the prospect of there could be a massive nuclear war that wipes out the majority of humanity, we can kind of control them into doing what we tell them that we want them to do in order for us to avoid that. You're not going to have the war in the first place, but these people don't really realize that. They don't think far enough.
It's power.
It's all power. It's power.
Exactly, to be the toughest guy that walks down that hallway at school. And everybody basically just it's a rush, Everybody just kind of looks the other way or is scared of you. It's a rush. And you kind of you give them one of those and they back off. I mean, that's really what it is. And that's kind of where we are. And we'll always have those people. If it's Russia, it'll be somebody else. But I agree. It's a threat. It's always been a threat. And I don't think there's going to be any nuclear war, to be quite honest with you. So
no, and the other thing too is like going back to what we were talking about as far as the Great Awakening, is more people are starting to understand these ideas. They're not worrying as much about death, because they're starting to understand that death is not what people typically believe it to be. You're trained from a young age to think, okay, you live your life, you die, and then you go either to heaven or to hell, or if you're atheist, you believe there's nothing after that. Well, the thing is that death is an illusion. Everything about death is not what they have made it out to be. So once people actually start understanding that, they stop fearing it as much. Once you don't fear death as much, it makes it so much easier to look at things for what it really is and get the truth out of it. They can't control you as much, because what's the worst thing that they can threaten you with? Death. But you're not afraid of death. So it takes that ammo out of their ability as far as what they can make you believe, as far as how they can make you act. But that's a huge thing. And as far as that's a big part of the Great Awakening, is like what Pete termed it. Once people start understanding that and they lose that fear of death, the entire narrative changes.
So here's where I piss off the crowd for the first time tonight.
Well, before you go there, though, and I didn't mean to interrupt you. No. Why did they call it the Great Awakening?
You're basically getting that information. Your eyes are opening. You're waking up from the sleep they've kept you in. Like if you follow
masses. It's the masses of people.
If you follow certain subsets, they're poisoning you with the food. Everything you're eating and drinking is to calcify your pineal gland, which is your connection to the universe. So everything is against you. That's what we're saying. Everybody's been lying to you. Once you break free of the lies and you start seeing the bigger picture, that this is the awakening. It's like, holy crap. Like,
Here, I forgot to do this before you say anything, Pete. I'm going to put this right up on the screen. Hold on.
Yep.
No, I'm going to put that right up on the screen. I forgot to do it before the show, so
Viewer discretion is advised. Love it.
I am a trained idiot.
now you can go, Pete.
Okay. No, it's only you cannot be metaphysical and religious. You're one or the other.
Okay.
If you're going to move towards the Great Awakening, you have to leave religion. I'm sorry, that's my own personal philosophy. Going in with your disclaimer. It's not that it's not helpful, but again, there's another system that's been lying to you. It's been designed to keep you in slavery. It's been designed to control your thoughts, like you were saying, since you were a kid. If you misbehave, you're going to hell. There is no hell. You can't be punished for something that doesn't exist, but they have that fear machine that keeps you there. When you take a metaphysical path, you start realizing that you are on par with God, that you are actually powerful. You can do things. Everything boils down to frequency, vibration, and mathematics. Religion doesn't. Religion takes all that away from you. There's only one person who has that power. Although he loves you, he's going to punish you. I mean, that's my own personal thought on that.
Okay.
But, and don't get me wrong, there's
weapons and ancient religions are no match for a good blaster at your side, right?
There is a subset of metaphysics called Christ-centric. The person and the beliefs are absolute. But once you make metaphysics a religion, it becomes the same as everything else. Metaphysics has to be your own personal journey, your own growth. That's basically how I was taught. That's what I'm regurgitating.
It's the idea. It's the idea that there's elements of truth in every religion. But if you lock yourself into, okay, I'm only going to believe Christianity, I'm only going to believe Islam, I'm only going to believe Judaism, Buddhism, whatever, you're limiting yourself as far as what you can actually learn. There's elements of truth in all of those. And if you start going towards metaphysics, you stop really. I mean, I still identify as a Christian, because that's how I was brought up. And there's a lot of truth in Christianity. But the thing is that when you look at the Bible, when they teach it to you as being a literal translation, there's probably some stuff in there that's literal, but a lot of it is metaphorical. And when you start looking at it like that, you realize, for starters, there was never supposed to be a system where everything was just about the building of the church and the priests and everything. You had to be subservient to them. You had to give all your money to them. If you go back, a really easy way of looking at this, if you look at that show, what is it, The Chosen? That new television show that's on, it's an online thing. I think it's called The Chosen. But it's all about Jesus. It's a really good show. Well, there's one part of it where Jesus is at a well talking to this lady who, she's basically a whore. Everybody in town thinks, she's like, and they have rejected her. Nobody wants anything to do with her and stuff. And Jesus comes to her and he basically tells her what's going on and stuff. And she thinks, there's no way that I can be a part of this. I'm not allowed in any temples. People don't want anything to do with me. People despise me. And he tells her there's coming a time where it's not going to be about temples and it's not going to be about, priests or rabbis or anything like that. Now, Jesus said this outright, but when we look at Christianity right now, it's all about temples. It's all about the priests and it's all about the bishops and it's all about the Pope. And it's not about that person's relationship with God. There's all these middlemen who don't have to be there. Now you can go if you like going to church and you feel comfortable being in that setting and everything, then by all means. But the idea is that it's not necessary and it's not required. If you look at the real teachings, because the real teachings were far more metaphysical and esoteric than what they would have you believe. We're in 2022 now, so that's over 2,000 years since Jesus died. How many times has that Bible been retranslated from different languages, from different accounts? And there was at one point when the King James Bible became, I think it was Emperor Constantine, there were several things that were omitted from it because they didn't want people to know. One in particular has always been said that there was a portion of the Bible which dealt with reincarnation. Well, they didn't want people to know about that because that would remove their ability to have power over you by you're going to heaven or you're going to hell. So there's just so many things that get lost in translation over 2,000. I mean, something could get, if I say something to you right now, Pete, and then later on you go and tell somebody else, that person goes and tells somebody else, who goes and tells somebody else. By the time it reaches the end of the line, it's a completely different version than what I told you. That's just human nature. Well, now take that and apply it to 2,000 years across multiple languages, across multiple cultures. How much is the original account, the true account, changed? And when you look at it like that, it's much easier to accept the idea that it's not everything that you've been made to believe that it is from the official account.
Okay.
And I will throw in for their...
I'm rambling right now. I apologize.
And they have removed all of women's history from most of the Bible. When they found the Dead Sea Scrolls, that's when you started finding out how important women actually were in the spiritual movement. They were actually far more important than the male role in there. I know, who would have thought I was going to tell you that? But one in particular, if people are looking to read, it's the Book of Norea. Norea was one of the daughters of Adam and Eve. Many people consider that to be the beginning of the downfall of man. The evil creator god of earth, Yalbadayo, went to Noah and made a deal with him that him and his children would be the rulers of earth, and then he wiped everyone else out. Adam and Eve were the keepers of the knowledge, so there's where we say we're talking about the lying that starts. So she had the truth. So Norea had the truth. Their son Seth had the truth. They tried to eliminate the truth. Norea actually battled Noah 4 times, and 4 times she burned the ark. To the point it got so bad against her, she went and got Lilith. And if anybody out there who follows vampire lore, you know who Lilith is. You never heard that in church? Never heard that in church. And there's many other women there. I've seen something where they believe that Mary Magdalene is actually Peter. The Apostle Peter never actually existed. They had to make her male because of the way society was. Mary Magdalene is the biblical Peter and the first pope, according to some of the stuff I've read.
I've heard that.
That's going in deep. That's doing a seriously deep dive. So this Great Awakening, is there a purpose to this? Has this been predicted? I mean, is this the path that we're supposed to go? I feel like we're having discussions like the Matrix. You know what I mean? It's like,
well, that's where
here's
Tony
the pill. Take the red pill or the blue pill. You know, and
I've seen you write about it. You can do it probably more eloquently than I can, about like fractal holograms, a collective conscience.
Oh, now we're going deep.
There you go.
There we're going deep.
So the Great Awakening, for starters, it goes back to what I said. You pretty much have 2 choices. Either you have to awaken to a lot of these ideas, otherwise humanity is pretty much just going to implode on itself because of all the destructiveness that's around. And I apologize, my allergies are driving me crazy. That's why I keep rubbing my eye. If you look at Nostradamus, there was something that he predicted, and I go back to this a lot, and I wish I could find the actual writing, but I do remember reading it, where he pretty much said that we were going to get to a point in civilization where he referred to it as the rapture, like the physical rapture. But I don't believe that the rapture is actually physical unless aliens are going to come and start beaming us up. I believe that that's a spiritual process. That's the raising of the Kundalini to the highest sense, which when you reach the highest sense of the Kundalini awakening, they say, your crown chakra, that's an awakening. Now you've awakened, you've raptured. So more people are going to rapture to that idea. Those who don't are going to pretty much be left behind us throughout a time of horrendous darkness. So the Great Awakening, the way that I interpret it from reading that by Nostradamus, is that that is starting, because Nostradamus predicted a lot of stuff that happened, and you can't even really argue it at this point when you go back through his prophecies and all the things that he wrote. So right now, all these people are having these awakenings. It's essentially like they're rapturing. Everybody's waiting for the physical rapture where they get, pulled up into the sky, but they're going to be waiting a long time because that's not going to happen. The rapture is actually your spirit rising. You're having that spiritual awakening. You've essentially had a resurrection of your spirit, and those who don't have it are going to be left behind and are going to suffer a lot. because I do think that things will, are going to get pretty bad in terms of the economy, and maybe that process has already started with COVID or with the war. There's people who are just living in such terror and fear of these things. Myself, I haven't cared in the least, other than the inconveniences that it's placed upon me because I don't want to wear a stupid mask. But there's some people who their entire life has been thrown upside down. Everything. They don't even want to go out into the public because they're worried they're going to catch something. So that right there is a form of their suffering. They're struggling because they haven't had that experience where they've had something of a spiritual awakening, and they've realized, like, listen, none of this stuff really matters, and most of it is BS. But yeah, I mean, I do believe that it's been predicted, and I do believe that its entire purpose is just to eventually you have to evolve. We've evolved in a lot of ways technologically, but Earth hasn't really evolved spiritually past a third dimensional consciousness, to where they've approached like the fifth dimensional, where everything does become completely harmonious and like kind of like what the hippies would talk about back in the 60s, the dawning of the age of Aquarius and living in, a sense of Shambhala. That's what I believe that we're actually supposed to be living as. But when you have all of these factors that are coming into play from the people in charge, they pretty much make it to where that's not possible. As people start evolving more in the spiritual sense, the Great Awakening, things like that become more possible, and Earth might become a much, much better place to live. I'm rambling again, sorry.
No, not at all.
That's what you're here to do.
Many investigations. Now, you see why I always ask, can we talk to someone from the fifth or sixth dimension?
Right.
Because we're getting out of the low frequency, low density, 2-3 level people that are infecting Earth. Some may be in the fourth. But there's a spirituality about them. There's a pureness. That's where the truth starts coming out. I heard a mention of the chakras. Just as a quick question to the audience, how many chakras are there? That they always tell you. They tell you there's 7 chakras. There's 12. What happened to the other 4? 5, 4, 3.
6, maybe?
Math with Pete.
Well, I was Common Core. What do you think?
Metaphysical. He mentioned math was part of the metaphysical.
I'm not into math. So you got the 7th. That's what they teach you. They run Roy G. Biv right through your body. Red, orange, yellow, right up to violet. But then there's the 8th dimension. 9th, 10th, 11th is the universal realm. And then 12th.
I'll give you that. And there's somebody right. Those are the chats. And there's somebody right at the top that did your math for you. So.
12. Okay. That was the misses. Thanks, Candy. But we can't go into the 12th dimension. That's the universe. That's the system that's running everything. Whatever runs and controls that, nobody knows how to comprehend that. But why are they blocking 8, 9, 10, and 11 from you? Because that's your own personal growth, your own spiritual level, your own awakening.
Interesting. We've done some portal sessions, and we've spoke to some type of entities or spirits, and we've asked them, or we're starting to get a habit now of asking them, what dimension are you in? And the 5th came up a lot. And then we talked to something, Pete, you remember, something that was very negative and identified itself as very negative. And we also asked it what dimension it was in. It said the 6th dimension. So, I mean, what is dividing these dimensions apart from each other? Is it the vibration? Is it
frequency?
The frequency?
Vibrations. Just one more quick thing, and then I'll shut up the rest of the show. We didn't really explain. There's 2 subsets of metaphysics. There's one called woo-woo metaphysics, WOO-woo-woo. Woo-woo. Here's where I piss off the second group of people. This is the tarot cards, the sage, the crystals. Right. This is the theatrical part of that. This was designed to pull you away from the metaphysics. Metaphysics is legitimately a science, and it always had been. It means beyond science. Most physics cannot exist without metaphysics. So when you look at someone like Dr. Masahiro Kaku, who we met, they take their theory, his 11th dimension string theory, N theory, all that. They slap it up in the metaphysics, and they reverse engineer it until they can get it to be physics. But you notice he's working on the 11th dimension string. He's always talking about frequency, music, the harmony of the universe. Do you see something coinciding with the chakra thing? So the woo-woo, like religion, plays an important part. It's markers, it's teachers. So, so you're going to learn about chakras. You have to have the 7 colored stones to teach you where to put it on your body. Once you mentally learn that, you don't need the stones. So the teacher disappears. You're ready to learn something else. All right, I'll shut up.
No. That's why you're here.
How did you become so smart, Peter?
SMRT, you know me. I watch The Simpsons.
The Simpsons.
You got to watch The Simpsons. They predict everything.
Well, Matt Groening is a time traveler, so we know that. We know Matt Groening is a time traveler.
Start stocking up on Twinkies, everyone.
They last forever. They truly do. Okay, so
do you have any burning questions on the metaphysics?
Burning questions on the metaphysics? No. So
you are an unlimited spiritual being that you have always existed and always will. We are just a part of, as I've mentioned before, we're an avatar right now of a higher conscious. So to throw that back into the paranormal, because that's what we do. I've often wondered, when we're asking these questions, are we talking to ourselves and getting an answer to our question from ourselves from a different dimension? And we're not even actually talking to ghosts.
Oh,
think about that one on the pooper tonight.
That's heavy. That's definitely heavy, man.
Could we talk to Peter? Yes. What's your name, Fred? I don't know a Fred.
Yeah, you're going.
Well, another idea with the metaphysical is that each person is essentially a reflection of something of yourself. So in actuality, you're me and I'm you. You're just a different version of me in terms of how your appearance and the way that you think. But there's elements of you. So let's say if I see something in you that annoys me, not that I do, but if there was something about you that bothered me, I'm actually seeing a reflection of something in myself that bothers me. So when I see something in the world that bothers me, I'm actually seeing I'm projecting, or I'm getting the reflection of something within myself that I don't like about myself. But it's what I'm seeing in the world is bringing it to my awareness.
That's a good point. Pay attention to that, people.
It's deep.
That's how you learn and grow, and that's part of the awakening. And as he's mentioned many times, the times we've gone through these past 2 years, I mean, those of us that are awake, it's very hard to just not punch people in the face. I'm sorry. But, I mean, you talk about the times that try men's souls. Because it's like you see the truth, you're trying to tell people the truth, but nobody wants to listen. And you're never going to win an argument in the religion world. You're never going to win an argument in the metaphysical world. And we've even seen it in the paranormal community. It's...
Probably not going to win any in the political world either.
No, God, no.
You got about a worse chance with that one than anything else at this point.
I was trying not to get him deplatformed here, so I was...
Oh, okay, my fault.
No,
sorry.
No, it's all right.
The whole political world is pretty much smoke and mirrors. That's the way I looked at it. It's what people see is what they want you to see, and what you don't see is what they don't want you to see. So essentially, I mean, I've looked at some things that people sent me about Trump, stuff that sent me about Biden, and I've looked at it again, and I'm like, well, that's sort of weird, I mean, didn't you just send me something? It was a picture, and there was an extra arm or something. Was that a joke, or were you?
No, there's. How do I eloquently? I don't know if there's glitches in the Matrix, like for real. Like I've seen pictures where they're filming their children, and they're next to a mirror. Like the child moves, but the picture in the mirror doesn't. And it's birds that are frozen in the sky, but other birds are flying by them. I mean, there's a lot of weird stuff that's out there right now. A lot of that stuff could be just green screen. I mean, there's something out there called deep fake technology, and I've seen some of that. Especially they were animating the Civil War photographs. I was watching it, and it was scaring the hell out of me. Like photos that are 200 years old, they're looking at you, blinking and talking. I'm like, oh. I don't know. The memes have been great, though. I'm sorry. I don't care. That's
The memes have been fantastic.
So I guess we have to ask a pressing question. Once the book hits the New York Times bestseller, who plays you in the movie?
Jeepers. I mean, I'd like to say The Rock, but you know, I don't.
There you go.
I think he might be a little bigger than me.
I've always wanted Vince Vaughn.
Maybe Zac Efron. The girls seem to really like him. He needs to go in that direction.
He's pretty ripped now.
Yes.
So
Yeah, he is. He's ripped as hell. I saw him in that Baywatch movie. I couldn't believe it.
Well, maybe I should share this, and not to embarrass you. When you were on the show a couple years ago, after the show, one of the ladies listening sent naked pictures to me to give to you.
Oh, those never reached my inbox.
No, she was in her 70s, but
Okay.
but if we get any tonight, I'll make sure Todd and Rich forward.
Well,
them.
now that
You can forward them directly.
now we have your email address, we can definitely flood your inbox with those
She
pictures.
was really improved. 70 years old. Wow, that's a first.
She was burning up the chat room too, asking if you were single and all. I mean, that was. I should have asked her if she was a millionaire for you.
Anything on there about that? Is there?
Yeah. She might have been independently wealthy. It might have been worth it.
So
Take one for the team.
Eric Vince Perillo responded to your question, Rich.
He sounds like someone from Rome.
Vinny. Cheetos. He's mentioning the Mandela effect is in full effect.
Okay. Extrapolate on that.
I don't know. Mandela is where you believe, sort of like cognitive dissonance. You believe something happened, but really didn't. Like they say the Looney Tunes logo changed, or Oscar Mayer baloney spelled different, or they could swear that, what's his name, was in the movie Shazam.
The Sinbad. Yeah.
Things like that, like Fruit of the Loom underwear never had a cornucopia in the logo, even though I remember the cornucopia in the logo, because I've always been Fruit of the Loom.
I remember that, yeah. And they're saying it hasn't?
It was never in there.
Sinbad and Shazam thing really freaks me out, because I feel like I remember that movie, but there's no record of it. I definitely remember Shaquille O'Neal being in Kazam, but I feel when they talk about this movie with Sinbad that supposedly existed, I feel like I've seen it. And that's really trippy.
Like a lot of little things. Kit Kat is spelled different. The Berenstein Bears. What the hell is the one I just seen? I don't know. There's been quite a few.
Berenstein Bears.
Steins?
Didn't this have me go back to
If you watch Peacemaker at all, you'll get that too.
to the CERN Super Collider? They did an experiment or something. They figured they'd change something.
That was a 14-year-old back then. A 14-year-old physicist said that when they turned CERN on, it fractured the universe into an alternate.
Right.
And that kind of makes sense, because around 2015, things really just... I wouldn't be surprised if dinosaurs are walking through the Walmart in Rome. I mean, that's...
If you've ever been to the Walmart in Rome, you know that's a distinct possibility. Because I actually think I've seen weirder shit at the Walmart in Rome.
Well, that's when they let the aliens out on Thursday nights because of Griffiths. They're all in the underground laboratory there. That's another theory. But yeah, don't go there after 9 o'clock on Thursdays. No.
I'm going to have to take your word for that, because that Walmart is like so far off the beaten path. There's other than have to live in Rome and have the only accessible Walmart, there's no reason to way the hell out there. You know what I mean? It is. It's like you're heading towards Camden, right? Dayburg, Camden, and there's a Walmart. I mean, just interesting.
Your best bet is use the delivery app.
There may not be any awakening going on there. Just going on a wild guess. But,
just kind of walked right by that.
So do you have a favorite poem that you'd like to have made into a song? Or are you partial to all of them? I know
I've got a lot. There's some stuff that I have written that was more built to be maybe made into a song as far as the structure and as far as the rhymes. And then there's stuff that's really just me sitting there and rambling. It doesn't necessarily rhyme. It's just me. I think of something and I just write it down. I think one that I've shared with a lot of people, and I wish I had it near me because I would read it for you right on here if I could. There's one that I have written. It's called Archangel's Prayer. And that is by far my favorite. It's not musical in any sense. There's no real structure to where it could be made into a song. I mean, unless somebody's really, really good can play around with it to that effect. But that is my favorite. That really deals a lot with kind of the stuff that we're talking about as far as society goes and how messed up a lot of things are when you look at the elites and all the control and how much people are really suffering and that they've got you enslaved. And the majority of people don't even really realize that they're enslaved because they've just distorted so much information. But that's probably my favorite one. And then there's another one called Woman on the Mountain, which I think that's actually my favorite one because that's more personal to me. That's about an experience that I had meditating. And pretty much it's about, imagine like you're out walking through a forest and there's a house or something. This is all in like a higher, you're meditating. It's not like you're physically doing this, but you meet a woman who's the woman on the mountain. And, one of the things is you ask her who she is and she pretty much tells you, well, I'm you. And everything she's telling you is relaying a certain part, certain pieces of knowledge that it's almost like your higher self is relaying to you. And that was directly inspired by a personal experience of mine. So there's some rhyming in it. I can't imagine it would ever be made into a song. But that for me, that's definitely my most personal one. And then there's a whole bunch that I kind of keep on the side that I'm like, okay, this is stuff that, if I get with a guitar player, we might be able to work through some stuff. Matter of fact, I had a buddy of mine came over today. We were down in the basement. He was jamming on the guitar. I was kind of working through some vocals. And then we may try to put a band together because, believe it or not, I can actually sing. I didn't know that until very recently. So I got around some friends of mine, and they were like, holy crap, dude, you can actually sing. And I looked at them and I said, I can? Because I never got any feedback. The shower walls never told me. So we might actually put a band together, try to actually do something with some of this stuff, which, that would be awesome because that's what I really want to do with the stuff. The book is great. It's going to give me an opportunity to share a lot of this stuff with people, and they can, take it how they want, whether they like it or they don't, whether something in it they can relate to. But to actually make music with it, that's really where my what my ultimate goal is. So
very nice. Very nice.
Very cool.
When is that coming out? And do you know when it's going to be released? Did you say that earlier? I didn't hear it.
The book should be. I should have the first shipment should be in the beginning of April. Cool. We finished the cover. We finished all the design and everything. The actual text of it I've sent to him, but again, like I told you, I drive my publisher crazy because I revise stuff constantly, and I'm like, can we squeeze this in? Can we squeeze that in? And she finally told me, she's like, all right, we need to actually say this is the final copy. You're not going to change it anymore after that. And I've kind of gotten to that point where I'm really happy with everything that's in it. So now it's just the finalizing everything with the design, getting it all printed and everything, and so beginning of April it should be out.
Nice.
And I don't have a website because I'm cheap and I don't feel like paying for one. But people can find me right on Facebook or even on Instagram if they're interested and they want to order it. But I'm going to see if I can't possibly get some copies of it into like local bookstores. I don't want to do anything big like a Barnes and Noble just because, corporate greed. But maybe like some of these local bookstores and stuff, I think it'd be kind of cool to have them there.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, man. It's awesome.
So as we're getting near the end, we're like a big share circle.
Careful how you say that. Getting near the end.
We're all on our way out, Rich. Plan accordingly.
Damn it!
That was the movie The Departed. I can't take credit for that.
A lot of movie references tonight.
Sorry. So if there's anything you'd like to share, have you ever had like an actual spiritual moment or an intercession, or have you been in touch with like a different incarnation? Like you've been able to see yourself in the past, or?
Well, yeah, now, I don't remember how much we talked about this the first time that I came in, but back in 2013, I had an absolutely crazy experience. It was 100% when I researched afterwards, like what the hell happened to me during that time period. It was absolutely 100% a Kundalini awakening. Now, I don't know if that was because of stress that I had in my life that caused it to happen, or, I don't know if somebody put something in my drink. I've always kind of said that was the easiest explanation. Like, yeah, somebody put DMT in my drink, bastards. But actually, it was kind of cool because this is when I started noticing synchronicities. I would notice that every time I looked at a clock, it was 11:11. Or I would notice that somebody who I hadn't talked to in maybe 10, 15 years, I randomly thought about 30 seconds later, they're sending me a friend request on Facebook. Really, really weird stuff. Prior to that, I had no interest in any of this stuff. I was about as materialistic, third dimensional as you could possibly be. All I cared about was going to the gym, what was on television that night. That was me. And from that time going forward, obviously it grew and it manifested itself in different ways. At first, it was just like a shock because I really felt like I was looking at a completely different world than what I had used to know. And there was some really crazy experiences that went along with that, which, we don't have enough time to go into those now, but that was one thing. Another thing too, was that I've gone to a couple of psychics. I don't necessarily believe in psychics. I think that a lot of it, they tell you stuff that's very, very vague, and you can kind of apply whatever you want to apply to it. And then by the time you leave, you're like, oh my God, she knew my whole life. No, she gave you little tiny bits and pieces that you could, play around with in your own head. But I've had two psychics who've told me the exact same thing, which really was kind of regarding past lives. They both told me that I died previously in a war, Vietnam to be specific. So the first one who told me that, I thought it was kind of cool. I didn't necessarily believe it, but I thought, well, you know what? I do love 60s music, so maybe that's got something to do with it. And I kind of just put that in the back of my head. Then a few years later, I went to see a different psychic who, to my knowledge, had no interaction or connection with the first psychic. And she told me the same exact thing, almost in the same detail. That really kind of caught my attention. And it also made me believe more in reincarnation and the fact that, we have past lives. So those were a couple of the really, cool experiences that really caught my attention. There's little things that I notice all the time. I tell people I tell time completely different than other people. If I look at the clock and I see that it's 11:11 or 1:11 or 2:22 or 3:33, I'm very, very much so paying attention to everything around me at that point. What was I thinking? What was I seeing? What was playing on the radio? What was I hearing? And I'll go so far as that if I look at the clock and it's not something like 11:11, but I'll add the numbers. Like, let's say it's 8:03. 8 and 3 adds up to 11. Little things like that. Mostly it's just me playing around in my head for my own amusement. But this is all stuff that came along with that initial experience back in 2013.
And ironically, I'm actually on the 11:11 kick for the past 6 months. It's like every time I look at the friggin' clock, it's 11:11. Which I believe the spiritual number is you're on the right path. That's the angel number for you're doing the right thing.
11 is, huh?
11:11. Yeah.
11:11.
10:10 is sort of good too.
Yeah, my spirit number, I actually did like a numerology thing where I looked into like the soul path number and all those different things. Well, my soul number was actually 11, which is considered a master number in numerology. So that kind of provided a little more depth to it, made it even more interesting. But if you're seeing 11s all over the place, like you're in a pretty good place. It's a good sign.
Just out of curiosity, have you ever played around with gematria? The biblical code there?
No, not really.
Well, there's one. If you got nothing going on in the bathroom one night, that's a good thing to get into. Like, it equates your name down to specific numbers, and then it shows phrases that match up with your gematria code. Yes. Like, ironically, my name breaks down to Ark of the Covenant. It also breaks down to Biden's something, I don't know. But it shows you a whole list of things you break down into with the same number codes.
Gematria code is what it's called?
Gematria, I believe it's G-E-M.
Gematria.
Gematria.
Okay.
I got that wrong list.
When you first said it, it sounded like it had a D in it. I thought you were asking me if I've done DMT, which that's a whole nother discussion.
That's next week.
So you wonder why Pete's so intelligent. He spends so much time in the bathroom with what must be on an iPad or something.
We're on the wrong street corner. 2 street corners up. I think we could get DMT and crank or something else. But
Crank.
Oh my
boy.
Well, people tell me I'm full of crap, Rich, so I'm in the bathroom quite a bit.
Yeah. Good place to be. You're expelling everything that's no good anymore. And moving on with your life.
Well, maybe I should start measuring the turd and see. What was that called?
God.
No. What was that? We had a show on that. Scatomancing.
No.
The people who predict the future looking at poop. Okay, I just totally
That's a
sent
thing?
that off.
Oh,
yes,
my.
look that one up. Google it.
No. That's
Scatomancing.
I'm afraid where it's going to take me.
On that note,
It's going to take
I
me.
just ruined the whole show.
Yeah, so
went right down the shitter. Right
absolutely.
It'd be pretty crazy if you measured it and you had like an 11-inch turd.
That's what I was thinking. Like, oh my God, I poop 11s.
Oh my.
Yes.
All right, I'll shut up now.
Okay.
I mean, I've totally.
So we pretty much ran out of time. So so thank you, Anthony, for coming on, man. It was great. And
Thank you guys very much for having me. It was a lot of fun.
we'll definitely grab that book. So again, friend Anthony Desito on Facebook, get his book.
Yep. Keep an eye out for it.
It'll be out there soon.
Yeah.
Good luck with the band. I hope that works out for you, man.
Thank you very much, man. I appreciate it.
What's that? Oh, he showed me the thing, the man who can predict the future by reading feces. So on that note, so on that note, we're going to end the show.
Good night.
So thank you, everyone, for listening in. And don't forget to check us out on Facebook at Agent Paranormal. And
Are there any tickets left?
there might be a couple tickets left for the Fulton County Museum investigation on March 12th. Check out Agent Paranormal on Facebook. I think she put a couple more on there. But then after that, that is it, folks. It's sold out, and we're looking forward to being there. It's been a long time coming. So have a safe and prosperous night, and we'll see you in a couple weeks. Peace.